Good morning. Morning. I know, my like paradise. I know. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Popcast. Whenever you're listening to this, whether it be live or a VOD, Twitch or YouTube, or Spotify, while you are sending your friends anonymous DMs, while you are sending me bot messages in chat so that I can ban you right at the start. Perfect timing. Attempting to use the stamper in solo queue, now that you know how to actually use it. Donating $1 for every time you see a crab show up on stream. Whatever it is that you're doing right now, I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to listen to this. Unless I don't. Hey, I played at a local in Ohio on Saturday. Or not really local for me, it was a 3-hour drive. But me, Allie, Roundy, and Mizuno all played. And Columbus, Ohio, at this Belong thing. Not that I'm like sponsoring, they're like sponsoring or I'm endorsing them or anything like that, whatever. But it's cool. I like the fact that locals are a thing, and I wanted to go and support it. And it was a fun time. There were only 4 teams there, but there was still a good, healthy amount of competitive players. Grand finals went to a decisive Game 7. The team that finished in 3rd place took the team that finished in first place to a Game 5. So good stuff all around. It was a fun event. Good little get-together. And hopefully there's some more locals going forward with that Ohio thing. If you're in the Midwest area, I don't know how far Columbus is from like the Pittsburgh area or Michigan or anything like that, but there could be a whole lot more people that go out to things like that. So, yeah, I just wanted to point out that I had a good time, and I would encourage others to go and maybe try to get some locals going in your scene. You never know who might show up. News of tournaments going on that may be of the interest to the casual listener of the podcast. It's Christmas week. Why are you guys playing in tournaments right now? There is a paddling pool, I'm sure. SOS is going on Wednesday. But if there's anything else going on this weekend, I don't care. I am so done, dude. I'm so done. I went through a whole week of seeding all you idiots for Ludi, and then an entire week verifying everybody for low ink, and then running low ink, and then last week, 2 Popcast episodes, ran Proving Grounds, commentated for Stormbreak, and traveled to a local 3 hours away. So I've been doing a lot of stuff, and this is going to be the last Popcast episode, not of the year, but going to be the last one for a while. There will be one more Popcast episode this year, and is going to be Friday of next week. It's going to be the annual Popcast Awards. So start be thinking of who your team of the year, match of the year, maybe upsets of the year, TOs of the year, captains of the year. Start be thinking about things like that. We'll start putting that stuff together. And I already know what the other segment I'm going to talk about next week. I'm going to be, I saw in chat when I was talking to Moo, Spoon asked a question of what is the end game? What's the point of doing all this stuff? And I've been thinking about what is my personal end game? Like what's the end goal for what it is that we're trying to do here in the Splatoon community? And I've been reflecting on that. I'm going to have an answer for you guys next Friday. Today we are going to be recapping Stormbreak. We're going to break it down like we normally would with a low ink event because, well, there's multiple brackets of things to look at as well. So we're going to be talking about the event as a whole. Then we'll look at the brackets. Also, the top 5, well, not the top 5, but 5 matches from the past Ludi week 2 that stood out to me that I wanted to at least mention. That will be a part of the weekly recap as well. All that and more. But first, let's start things off the right way. Congratulations to the Mulloway Institute of Technology team on running their first ever major. I believe the final prize pool was just shy of 2,000 schmackaroonies, which is a little bit more or less than the value of the dollar is right now. But nicely done, MIT, their staff, and whoever their anonymous donor was that initially funded the beginning prize pool. The staff and the anonymous donor, I hope those two groups got whatever they wanted out of this event. I don't know if they did or not because I don't really know what the ambition was behind all of that. But whatever it is that they were looking for, I hope they got it. And you could just tell through the production, some of the stuff I saw going behind the scenes, all the promotion that they did, all the promotion that they allowed other orgs to do as well. That's something we at IPL have never done. We've never plugged a Dapple production tournament. We probably have plugged some MIT stuff before, but just the heart and soul that MIT put into this event did not go unnoticed and should be credited. So I wanted to start it off just by saying that right off the bat. Congratulations to them. Let's start with the double limb group thing before we get into any of the other talking points here, because it's I like talking about TOing stuff. I like talking about formats. Is it the most interesting thing to listen to? I don't know. I don't really care at this point. I enjoy doing it. So, and I think there are some interesting things to talk about when we look at these double limb groups that were going on. The double limb group thing, as I was talking to K-Bot, who is also at that Columbus meetup or Columbus local on Saturday. asked him, I was like, has this ever been done, this double limb group thing, ever been done in a Splatoon tournament before, to your knowledge? And he said, no, I think this is the first time. Not that I've been around forever, but it's the first time I noticed it as well. So I was excited to see. I was excited to watch it just to see how this was going to work, because I feel like 20XX figured it out. With this major stuff, I honestly feel like they figured a lot of this out. Just do groups into double limb, do it on Battlefy, which is super easy for everyone to understand. It's easy for the TOs. I feel like sometimes we overthink a lot of these stuff, but I feel like 20XX said it kept it simple and it worked perfectly. So what did the double limb groups bring that nothing else could bring to the table? After watching it through and seeing it happen in front of my own eyes from the spectator perspective, not actually playing it, mind you, I like that it was tried, but probably should not be used again. Probably should not be used going forward. And there's a couple of reasons why. One of which is not the fact that low level got eliminated really early on Saturday. Yeah, it sucks that if you're a low level team, you're signing up for this event, and you're kind of clearing out your Saturday. You're kind of used to how these tournaments work. You know you're going to get your butt kicked, but eventually you'll find that team around your skill level. Most low level teams were out within the first hour, if they even lasted that long. I don't really care about, because at the end of the day, somebody has to get screwed over when you have a massive amount of tournament that has this wide of a skill range. And I don't feel bad if low level gets screwed over a little bit, because they got an embarrassment of riches of things that are going on just for them. And we're always looking to come up with new tournaments to cater to even smaller groups within low level. So low level's been spoiled for years in this community. So I don't really feel bad if a format doesn't really work out into their favor, but it is a drawback that I do just want to point out. It's more so the redemption part of this bracket that I think is one of the main flaws with the system that we have here. And I didn't really think about it until seeing it all the way through. However, if you were to lose in most tournaments, let's lose Squid Junction. I wrote SJ on here. I knew I was going to say it. Super Jump. Let's use Super Jump and like basically every single LAN that we've done as an example. If you win your group, you're usually put right into Top Cut outright. You're right there. You're done. You just got to wait for whenever Top Cut starts. If you lose once and you don't like win your group outright, usually you get put into this redemption bracket kind of thing, where you just play people from other groups that you haven't seen yet. And if you make it out of the redemption round, then you're into the Top Cut bracket. Super Jump did that. Super Jump 2 did that. And pretty much every LAN follows that kind of format. Whether you want to call it waterfall or whatever, it's still a redemption style bracket. The redemption bracket here with the double limb groups, though, causes this kind of awkward issue where you could just get beat by one team. Just one team could gatekeep you from making alpha bracket. Whereas before, if you got knocked out of your group in a different kind of tournament, you get to play against a different team from a different kind of group that gets feed into a brand new group. Here, if there's just one team that knows how to beat you specifically, they're going to knock you out of contention. Nobody else. It created this awkward kind of situation. There were 8 different pools of double limb groups. In 6 of the 8 pools that you saw on Saturday, the third place team, meaning the team that was trying to steal that last spot into alpha bracket, the third place team lost to the second place team for the second time that group. That means of the 8 groups, 6 of them came down to a rematch in losers final, where that same team that won in winners beat them again in losers. So 6 teams got absolutely gatekept by just one in particular team. I think that's a flaw. I think that doesn't give everybody the exact opportunity to get into alpha bracket in a smooth kind of way. Now, at the end of the day, none of that really matters, and I'll get to that point in a second. Because it didn't really change who made Alpha Bracket at all when you stop and think about it. In fact, the teams that made winners finals in all 8 groups, the 2 teams that made winner finals in all 8 of the groups, all went on to make Alpha Bracket. Every single team, and this might get confusing, listen here, every single team that lost winners finals went on to win losers finals. All 8 of them. If you made winners, you just automatically moved on to Alpha Bracket anyways. It doesn't matter if you won winners bracket or not. And those loser matches, those loser final matches were absolute curb stomps. Both teams that made all 8 winner finals advanced in the Val. Yes, I already read that point. Where I'm already lost on my notes here. The record, here's what we're looking at. The record of the teams that won losers finals. Per game, across all 8 groups combined, 24 wins to only 4 losses. So what does that tell you? That tells you that regardless of what the format is, the teams that are seeded to make Alpha Bracket are going to go on to make Alpha Bracket anyways. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter what you do. If you could do double limb format, group format, double limb group format, ladder, waterfall, Swiss, mozzarella. It doesn't matter. You can have whoever play whoever you want. But usually when you seed 1 through 16, those 16 teams are going to find a way to make Alpha Bracket. I think officially off the seeding, maybe one team stole a spot from somebody that was seeded not to make it or something like that. I don't know. At the end of the day, nothing really changed. It's just the little things here and there. How many teams you get to play, how many matches you get to play, how many times you see a different opponent. That's the things that are just kind of mixed up right there. The biggest issue with this format, though, and this is what ties into everything, the biggest point is that the stream kind of suffered because of this double limb format. And that's the most important thing. How can you get as many viewers watching your event as possible? How can you get it to where the stream lasts a decent amount of time so that you can draw in higher viewership numbers? The stream for Saturday didn't even last 2 hours. That's a major tournament that is done in under 2 hours with the stream. But it makes sense when you have double limb groups and there's no grand finals in all of them and you're not streaming every single match. You're just kind of looking, well, let's just slowly progress with each group. Once you stream everything, you're done. And that was just 2 hours. 2 hours for a major event. And the viewership wasn't particularly high. At least it's hard to tell after the fact. I was driving, so I couldn't watch it live myself. But I guess the whole stream was done during the course of my drive anyways. But the viewership on the MIT page from day 1 to day 2, it's not what you would hope that it would be. I mean, obviously day 2 is going to be massive compared to day 1 in any kind of scenario that you do. But you would still want that day 1 to be a little bit higher. And I think one of the main culprits was, aside from other factors that kept registration a little bit lower, it's just the format caused the tournament to go way too quick on Saturday without any other exciting things to kind of show to extend the stream at least maybe another hour or so. What could have changed everything, and maybe it's not fair to be critical of the double limb format in this particular setting, because it might have been changed. It might have been bigger. The stream might have lasted longer if there were more teams that signed up. If there were more teams, maybe the pools are a little bit bigger. Sunday would have been bigger. And that would, oh my gosh, with how much Sunday was slogging along with 16 teams. If they got 32 teams in there, an extra round in winners bracket and 2 additional rounds in losers bracket, that would have been a nightmare to see how long that would have lasted. For whatever reason, these groups were just kind of slogging along on Sunday. I think the language barrier, somebody pointed that out, that was kind of slowing things down. Fair enough. But why were more teams not signing up for this? They were pushing it really hard. They were trying to get as many teams to sign up for it as possible. Why could we not get more teams to sign up for this major event? It capped, it had 87, but 7 of the teams didn't fully register in time that registration closed, so it only had 80, and then you just had more people drop as the days went on. But why weren't they able to get more players to sign up for these events? One of the issues probably was the fact that Ludi was going on, which is a fair thing to kind of point out. Ludi is, it's a massive event, but registration across the board always dips a little bit whenever Ludi is going on. Fair enough. It's December, holiday season. Most people are kind of burnt out by things. They're stressed out by things. Don't really have time. Don't have time in their schedules to set aside to play an event in December. Low-ink happened the weekend prior. That kind of burned out a lot of people from low level from wanting to play in another 2-day event directly after the weekend after them playing already in low ink. So I think some of those factors combined just kind of worked against MIT here, and there's nothing they could really do about those kinds of things. Those are all things outside of their control. And do you want to try to reach out to the casual community and get them playing in these events? In my opinion, no. This is not an event designed for it to be the first event that you play in. It's usually not going to work out pretty well into your favor. Finals week as well. That's a good point to bring up. I haven't thought about college stuff in a long time, and I still have nightmares about college stuff, but I like to pretend that I'll never have to go back, and I probably won't. I'll just become a streamer full time and just live off of that. Also, MIT is just a little bit younger in the competitive scene. IPL and Dapples have been around long enough to kind of make themselves established. MIT, and I talked to Moo about this, has always had this narrative of being a low-level thing. I think some people look at Megalodon Cup and say, oh, well, even though that's an open tournament, that's not for me because MIT is for low-level stuff. I shouldn't be playing in something like that. That's the narrative they have to fight against. And this is a good step in the right direction for them to do that. But at the end of the day, and I've been talking about this more and more so myself, as I'm looking at Proving Grounds, we only had 17 teams sign up last Friday. I was like, yes! That's all. I don't care about getting massive amount of teams signing up for events anymore. What I care about are the streams or the matches that are going to be on stream quality. Are people going to watch? Viewership for Proving Grounds is constantly going up, even though registration is going down. The amount of teams that are at the skill level that we're targeting are signing up for this. There's similar skill level, and we're putting out good matches on stream. And it's drawing more and more conversation on Twitter. So that's great. That's all I really care about. And if you're MIT or anybody looking to run a major, in reality, the only teams you want signing up for this are the big boys, the top level teams, the monsters that come out and everybody wants to see. I don't want to see low-level teams on stream anymore, and I purposely dodge them if they're signing up for Proving Grounds. I don't want to stream that. There's so many other areas where you can see these alpha bracket teams play in a tournament. I've seen them more so than I've seen Starburst and Sayonara and anybody else. I've seen that so many times. I don't want to see that anymore. I want to see the big dogs play, and the big dogs signed up for this. So that's all that really matters. Yeah, do you want more people playing in your event? Yes, but who cares? As long as you get the matches you want at the end of Sunday, which is exactly what MIT got. Did it make the format a little more funky throughout the course of the event? Probably, but then again, everybody ended up where they were supposed to be, so who really cares? Maybe that's the problem, though. Maybe they got too good of players to sign up for this event. As we looked at the teams that finished at the top, and this is information coming from Sindow's tweet, which, by the way, a lot of people looked at Sindow's tweet as something players from Japan playing in Western events. I didn't see it as that at all. I just saw it as here's a cool stat. I don't know what that hate was about there. But of the teams that finished in the top 4, you had Comet that had 4 players from Japan. Melon God have 3. Oro Jackson, to my surprise, had 3. My surprise because I commentated them and I didn't even recognize that right in front of my face. Shows how much I actually pay attention to the players on Oro Jackson, not just the results. My bad. And Starburst, even Starburst had 1 player from Japan. They actually had a second. I believe TikTok was on the roster as well. We didn't see TikTok actually play, but they did have 1 player from Japan playing with them the whole time. So Japan's presence, it wasn't just the teams from Japan, but it was players from Japan that were playing for established Western teams as well. Japan is all over the place, and I can't see how this is a bad thing. I don't quite understand why anybody would see this as a negative. Now, if you want to know my full thoughts on Japan playing in Western tournaments, rewind the clock. Episode 152, I did a full segment on it. I'm not going to sit here and repeat myself, but I will add some new things that I do want to bring up. The fact that these players from Japan are continuing to come over and play in these Western events, not just bringing their own teams, but now combining with Western players to play with their teams in these events, explain to me how that's a bad thing. Like, explain to me how us making this deeper connection to a country that sees Splatoon 3 as a legit and very, very successful esport is a bad thing. I can't comprehend how this is. I don't understand that. If now I saw some complaints of like, well, I just want to see the Western teams play against Western teams. We're seeing that for a good chunk of 2021. We did not see that. For a good chunk of earlier this year, we did not see that. We are spoiled with how often we're getting the opportunity to see stuff like that now. Hell, in one weekend, Starburst and Sayonara played against each other 4 times. They played each other 4 times across 2 tournaments, Starburst winning all of them. Oro Jackson and Alliance Rogue played against each other all the time in the month of November. Oro Jackson's actual roster, I'm assuming. Yeah, have we not seen like Starburst and Alliance Rogue played against each other recently? No, they played in 20XX, and I would like to see Starburst play the EU teams a little bit more. They seem, with the seeding of these brackets, they always dodge them because they're playing somebody from Japan instead. But you're going to get to see that soon anyways. There's another 4v4 Sundays coming down the pipe. You know they're all going to sign up for that. Like, you're going to get more opportunities to see all these teams play against the West. You're not going to get any more opportunities to see teams from Japan come over and mingle with the players in the West and play each other. You're not going to get to see that often, except when there's another major with money on the line. Yes, they're playing when there's money on the line. There's no surprise. That's how the world works. This should, like, are you guys just now discovering fire as well? Wait till you figure out what the wheel is like. Your mind's going to explode. Like, you're catching up with the times here. Now, if you just wanted to see Japan be absolutely not involved in this event whatsoever, no, you want to make this a skill cap tournament and ban Japan from playing in this event. As I pointed out before, the team winning all these majors is Starburst. Like, Starburst is the team that would win literally everything if Japan was not involved. So it's not like parity is coming into play here. I want to drive that point home because there's a really interesting stat that I was looking up and I was hoping I could bring up when I was commentating, but the right scenario never came up. Let's take a look at Starburst in this particular section. When their era started. That would be Riptide 2021. That was the first time on stage that they beat not FT Win, and they would come back and they won that whole tournament. And ever since then, Starburst has been the monster of the entire West since about September of 2021 up till today. This is a stat of Starburst's record in decisive games of top cut. That means if you go to a game and it's a best of 5 and you're playing game 5, best of 3, you're playing game 3, and best of 7 when you're playing game 7. Starburst, in those games of major events, that's Riptide, Big House, Nintendo tournaments, 20XX, and Squid Junction. In decisive games, Starburst's record is 15 wins and only 3 losses. They are 15-3 when they have no choice but to win or else they're going to lose a set in top cut stages of those finals events. Now, what are their 3 losses? They lost to the Kings twice, and they lost to Melon God yesterday in a Game 5 in the first bracket of Grand Finals. That's it. Those are the only teams that can push Starburst to the edge and finally knock them out. Nobody else. Every other time, Starburst has been pushed to the brink of almost getting knocked out by a Western team. They are 13-0 in winning those games. What do you guys want to see? Nobody can beat Starburst in the West. If it's supposed to happen, win. If it's supposed to be a thing of the rest of the West is just supposed to grind and find ways to beat them, okay, the numbers are sitting here saying win. When is that going to, like, how many more times do you guys need to see that? It's not happened. It hasn't happened in the past year and a half. It's not going to happen if you take Japan out of the equation. I don't understand what the point of that is. So if you take out Japan, this thing is going to get even more curb stompy than what it already actually is. So tell me, how is this Japan playing in these events? I see this as an absolute win. I don't understand how it could be anything but that. I'm not sitting here saying that the Japan coming over and playing in Western events is that kind of connection, that continued connection that we're making with them is somehow going to lead to this massive thing. Like the GG boys are going to come out of retirement and you're going to see them at Big House. I'm not saying that. But when we're talking about building a community and trying to just get better than what we were the day before, this is a step in the right direction. And if you think it's not, I don't know what else to tell you. Have fun watching Starburst spank everybody for all of eternity, I guess, because nobody else can catch up to them at this point. Now, as we see more and more Japan play, I think it's becoming more and more depressing what we're seeing on stream. Oh my gosh. Splash-O-Matic was an absolute mistake. The kit that they gave that thing is beyond bonkers at this point. We didn't realize it at the time. We knew Machine was going to be good because we knew Fizzy and Booyah Bomb was insane to give it that. But once we found out how strong Crab actually is, it's like, oh no, this thing could be really bad. There was at several points on the stream, there were 6 Splash-O-Matics in the lobby. 6 of them. These are some of the best players we have on this planet. And they're all opting to use Splash-O-Matic. The Charger players were like, okay, cool. As annoying as it is to fight Chargers, at least Chargers are back. They went down to Flingza, and yesterday they said, to hell with Flingza. We need our Charger player to use Splash-O-Matic as well. That sucks. That sucks that the meta's devolved, like falling apart to get to that point. Now, look, patches are going to come out. Yes, new kits are going to come out. Things are going to be updated. Things are going to be fixed. At the beginning of Splatoon 2, it was basically this with Tri-Slosher, and you didn't see much Tri-Slosher towards the end of the meta, basically because something else became annoying. People are always going to be complaining about things. But this game is not sustainable if it's a year from now and we're seeing 6 more crabs just walking across the screen, hawking loogie shots at each other. Like that's going to get old real quick. And I feel like it's going to get fixed somehow. But yeah, that was kind of annoying to see. But that's not really anything anybody can fix other than Nintendo. Do the TOs need to start having conversations about limiting specials? Like how Japan tournaments used to ban double Stingray. Do we need to start banning double splash comps or something like that? That is a conversation that needs to take place another day. It doesn't need to be a knee-jerk reaction to what we saw yesterday, and that is a huge Pandora's box. You start banning one thing out of tournaments as a collective whole, then all of a sudden, when the next broken thing comes around, well, how come you're not going to ban that? If missiles get put on a shooter, why aren't you banning that? If main power-up comes back, why aren't you banning that? That's a really dangerous slope to go down, but my gosh, as I'm sitting there watching all these crabs on stream yesterday, I'm like, this sucks. This sucks to watch, to commentate. I'd be shocked if a year from now we see that same exact thing. But if we do, that's not sustainable. That's something I hope gets fixed eventually. Again, I think there's a lot of positives here to come through. MIT running their first major. It was a fun weekend to watch, and I'm excited for the new batch of TOs. They're not new TOs, but their first time running an event like this. I'm glad they were able to see what it takes to run an event of this caliber. And I hope they kind of recognize, oh, wait, we don't need to close down 48 hours early. If they didn't do that, if they waited like 24 hours early instead of 48, there's your extra 20 to 30 teams. History shows, as frustrating as Splatoon teams are, you just give them an extra day to sign up. Massive amount of teams will sign up and your tournament will skyrocket in registration. It's frustrating, but I kind of understand it, and then I kind of don't. But once again, I'll end this segment the same way I started off. Congratulations to the TOs for running this event. I hope the feedback they get is positive, and hopefully this is the beginning of many things to come, which is the question I have. What is next for MIT? They got Megalodon, they got Minnow, they got Launchpoint Draft Cup, and those things only seem to come out like once a month or so. What is going to be built off of the success of this tournament? You got a whole bunch of new Twitch followers. How are you going to start streaming more? Are there going to be more events? Can the community hold more events? Are we going to start stepping on each other's toes anymore? I don't know. But just like everything else that was done in this whole weekend, MIT provided the opportunity for the community as a whole to make a step forward in the right direction. How many more steps do we need to take? We'll figure that out later. One step at a time, how about? We'll start talking about the actual matches that took place in this event. Before we get to that, is everyone's favorite segment. Maybe mine too. Alyssa's not. It's time for the weekly recap. SOS number 92 was won last Wednesday. It was won by Smoothie, who got a perfect run all the way through the tournament, including beating Seafoam 3-0. Bet took third place. Seafoam is probably the most finicky team in the entire competitive Splatoon scene right now. They're losing. 1 week, they're getting swept by Rising Wave. The next, they're threatening to beat Sayonara in a best of 7. The next week, they're getting swept by Smoothie. And then the week after that, they're beating Sayonara in a tournament. Or not even a week, a few days after that. Can you just be good all the time? Because you are clearly capable of it. Probably just didn't have a good Wednesday, so be it. But Smoothie really did. Smoothie taking their second SOS since that team has become a thing. Attaboy Smoothie. Hammerhead was won by In Your Walls. Mako Bracket was won by Cat Colt. And Lantern Bracket was won by Sekiznaga. Proving Grounds number 4 was played last Friday, hosted by IPL. Was won by Nightmare, the team that is going to be playing Smoothie in week 3 of the Ludi season. Just so happens, they played Smoothie twice in this tournament. Smoothie actually took second place, Nightmare beating them 2 times. Tricky Taka Tellass, which is some form of cookie, took third place. Yes, Shipyard was played 4 times in a row in a best of 5. Let me explain something to you guys. There are only 16 maps in Splatoon in Proving Grounds. There's 2 maps per mode. A map only shows up twice per mode so that you don't see the map as often during the non-counterpick stage. And there's only 4 maps per mode. So when it comes to counterpicking, if you don't want to go to Shipyard, you have to ban it. Neither teams banned Shipyard for whatever reason, so the other team just kept picking it. And I'm pretty sure Smoothie refused to ban Shipyard just for the lulz of making sure it showed up every single time. It's on the players to make sure that situation doesn't happen. It's not the rules that fault here. It's the players trying to cause chaos with the rules, and so be it. They got the set that they wanted, and it was still pretty entertaining to see. Looting matches of the week. I got 5 of them here. Let's start off with Div X. DNA got a 5-3 win over White Noise. That is a statement win for DNA up in Div X. In Div 5, Crimson Wave got a 5-4 win over Photic Zone. Crimson Wave had a really good week last week, beating No Mercy plus a sub in Proving Grounds. I'm surprised to see No Mercy there. But they were able to get a lot of really credible wins, including one over Photic Zone. In Div 6, June got a 5-3 win over Rolling Squids. I'm pointing that out because it is a really impressive loss, 5-3 for the Rolling Squids, who are continuing to roll in the right direction. June, a team that made a mockery out of Beta Bracket, looked like they were going to run away with Div 6. Rolling Squids gave them hell. In Div 8, Black Squid Band beat Ikaruo Kuko 5-4. In Div 11, the DC Suicide Squids got a 5-4 win over the Indefinable Bound. I cannot believe a Div 11 match went the distance to Game 9. We actually seeded those 2 teams right somehow. The Pittsburgh Steelers keep their hopes of having a winning season alive, beating the Panthers 24-16. The Chiefs needed overtime to beat the Texans 30-24, and the Rams play against the Packers tonight. I guess both teams are just playing for fun at this point. And that was your weekly recap, sponsored by Pointless Backward Laterals. Hey, is the game tied? And instead of just stepping out of bounds and going to overtime, you want to throw it halfway across the field to your quarterback who is getting absolutely manhandled by someone twice their size? Why not do a backwards lateral for no reason? The official sponsor of this week's episode of the Weekly Recap. Also, if you were hoping Jeff Saturday would stick around as the coach for the Indianapolis Colts next season, time might be limited on that one. Woo! Let's take a look at some matches played on the course of this weekend. Boom, boom, and boom. I don't want to spend too much time looking at Saturday, but there is one match in particular that made me go, what in the world's going on here? So this is, as we were driving to Columbus, Roundy's riding shotgun with me, and he's giving me some score updates as things are going along. He says, who is Red Pacific? Like, did they win Low Inc recently? I was like, no, they haven't won it, but they're a usual alpha bracket team. I put them in my top 10 the last couple of months. Like, why? What are they doing? Like, oh, they're currently up 2-1 over Squidding Good. I'm like, what? What the hell are you talking about? Yeah, Red Pacific was taking one of the best teams in Europe to a Game 5. Now, this is subbing good, so it's not officially Squidding Good. Don't know how many subs they had or anything like that. It doesn't matter. They should not be losing a single game to Red Pacific, let alone being down 2-1 in the middle of the set. What the hell was that? Okay. And then Red Pacific, after losing that, followed it up by beating Cold Coral, who went on to win one of the brackets we'll show you later. It took a game off of Sequoia. What was going on with Red Pacific on Saturday? What in the world is this? You're not supposed to be doing this. They're having a Blue Moon kind of major run. It's always these low ink teams that just pop off and just start really flexing in awkward ways. These are three far low-ink band teams Red Pacific went up against, and they beat one of them and took the other two to a decisive game. What the hell is that? That's the only one I want to look at. Everything else, I think, from the Saturday stage is mostly chalk. But to give you an example of what I was talking about, how one team can just keep losing here, Cherry Limeade beat Subbing Good, and this is probably the Cherry Limeade probably wasn't seeded to make Alpha Bracket. This is probably one of the few teams that stole a spot based off of seeding. But they beat Subbing Good 3-0, and they played them again, and they beat them again 3-1. And like this was 6 other groups of the 8 had this same exact scenario happen where there's just a rematch down here, and the rematch was not pretty. But that's just an example I wanted to point out. Let's start at the bottom and work our way up. So we're going to be looking at Epsilon Bracket. Now, a theme you're going to notice throughout the day is that people drop. That happens. That Super Jump had people drop after day 2. Low Ink has people drop. People sign up for a 2-day event and then they forget they have to actually wake up on Sunday. It happens. You guys that play in Low Ink know exactly what that's like. So there's only 9 teams. The 9th place is cut off by my chat here, but there's only 9 teams that actually played in this. So be it. This was a Swiss stage, so for those teams that got knocked out really quickly, there's still something for them here. And again, I was pleasantly surprised that I was wrong in Super Jump that Swiss stage went over as well as it did. I thought the teams weren't going to be happy with that. They were happy with it then, so I'm assuming this went over just as well. And I'm happy for Origami Dragons here, who are able to go 4-0, because it shows for them continued progress. We've been keeping an eye on them for a long time here on the Popcast, and they've been finicky beta bracket and then falling off. And then beta bracket is where they were in most recent lowing. This time around, winning this group against all these teams. They beat Hook, Line, and Sinker, Shark Reef, and I believe Undertime were the teams that they beat in this one particularly. Yeah, they played the best teams standing-wise in this Swiss stage, and that's a good step forward in the right direction for Origami Dragons. So that's the only thing I really want to point out with Epsilon. For the record, we had the forfeit on the last set against Red Pacific because our fourth didn't wake up and someone had to go. I might still beat us though, to be honest. Hey, a win's a win. Can't argue against that. Showing up is half the battle. We are looking at Delta Bracket right now. And as you can see right off the bat, 2 teams disqualified. Disqualified is kind of harsh. They dropped. DQ, when you kind of look at something that says DQ, you either think of Dairy Queen or you think, oh, they broke the rules and got kicked out. No, they just dropped. My Lag Paradise, this would have been a good set, too, between these 2 teams. But just couldn't there. We're not going to harp on that. We're going to harp on it more later because it becomes a bigger issue down the road. But we wanted to give... I just wanted to point out this is something that does happen. It's just not something to be too upset about. The things at Delta Bracket that I do want to point out, though, this Delta Bracket is basically just Low Ink and friends at this point. You got a bunch of really strong Low Ink teams here, and then teams that are recently just kicked out of Low Ink. Ink Sync, Cold Coral's been gone for a while. Panda Express, that's basically Lois, the team that won it earlier this year. So that's why the teams that I wanted to point out here in particular, Boston Squid Party. Woo, boy, I see you. I see you beating Panda Express in a decisive game 3. Waterfront in a decisive game 5. Did they do anything outside of that? No. But these are 2 really quality wins for another team that is making steps up in the right direction. I see you, not Panda Express, Boston Squid Party. Marine Melody deserves a little bit credit here, too. They beat the Jelly Squids. And then Data. And if you're wondering who Data is, they're a team we're going to be talking about here because after Data lost, beating Ink Sync, by the way, sweeping them, they ultimately went down here, beat Acropora, Black Komodo, Surf and Turf as well, and they went on a deep losers run here before Ink Sync finally got revenge on them it wasn't easy revenge that they got, but they eventually beat them. Who's Data? Wait, I'm pretty sure it's pronounced Data, not Data. No, it's not the Div 3 team, Data. This is a completely different team that's eligible for low ink, and they won Gamma Bracket in low ink. So they won Gamma Bracket, turned things around, and went on a deep losers run here against some really strong alpha / banned from low ink like Ink Sync is caliber teams. Nice step up here for this data team. However, it's Cold Coral, the team that Red Pacific beat, even if it looks like they did DC or had the drop or something like that the other day. Cold Coral's the one that smoked everybody and walked through this one and able to take care of business. They only played in one low ink, and it was like during the beginning of Ludi Season 12. And they won beta bracket in that low ink, and then they automatically got banned because they were Div 4. That was the only one they were allowed to play in. And I'm glad they're still a team. I'm glad they're still around and still competing in events. And they're still justifying that we were right to kick them out of low ink because they're really good here. Beating all these other low ink teams. And then sweeping a low ink band team like Ink Sync. By the way, Ink Sync went on the losers run here, beating everybody after and getting avenged against the team that they beat. So this is the grand finals that you were probably expecting to get when you look at the teams here. Splatolot A, if they had played, probably is the team contending for grands in this one as well. But nicely done, Cold Coral. I see you. Gamma Brackets. Oh, hey. Origami Dragons in chat. Welcome in. Now, I don't... like a few more drops here. Yeah, I don't know if the seeding, like how the seeding for this is work. I don't know if it's like based off of where you finished last time, or if they actually looked at, okay, here's the 16 teams that are in Gamma Bracket. Let's actually seed them 1 through 16. We don't do that with low ink. It's based off your record. But when you have double limb, you don't really have a record to go off of. So I don't know if like Shard was the number 1 seed here and they just got upset, or if they just dropped, or if they just got put up here just for whatever. It doesn't matter, because the teams that were supposed to be at the final stage here were the correct ones for the most part. With Gamma Bracket, Booyah Gang here is the odd team out. They are the Div 1 team and just had a bad weekend. It's not like they're a bad Div 1 team by any stretch of the imagination. They are 1-1 in their current Div 1 Ludi season. And the team... I got it written down. Yes, their only loss so far in their Div 1 season is a 5-4 loss to ASC Tenchi, who might go on to win their whole group. So Booyah Gang's a really strong team and should be beating all the teams here. They just had a bad weekend, obviously, to fall down to this bracket. Nightfare's beating them in a game 5. And then Sia taking a game off of them before the Hood able to knock them out. Booyah Gang just had a bad weekend. That's not to say anything bad about the teams that beat them, but they're clearly a little bit better than what they've in the past and what they just showed this past weekend. Let's see. Other teams I want to talk about right here. Obviously, Red Pacific followed up a strong Saturday with another... Well, I mean, Nightfares swept them, but then they went down here. You can't see it, but the Inked is who they were supposed to play, got dropped here. But they beat Echo 2-1. And then took a game off of Hood. Div 3 Hood, who took 3rd place in this whole thing. Red Pacific is the scrappiest team of all time in low ink all of a sudden here, if they're even still low ink eligible. Echo is a team that beat your mom in an SOS tournament. Now, that was a best of 3, as you're going to see. Anybody's vulnerable in a best of 3. But what happened to Red Pacific this entire weekend to where they're the only team to swept them was Nightfares? Every other team, it doesn't matter if you're Squidding Good or Echo or the Hood or anybody, could not put them away without sacrificing a game in the process. Are these guys even low ink eligible anymore? Wow. Probably the most surprising result of this entire weekend is what Red Pacific did. The Hood made the deep losers bracket run this time around after losing the Frostbite, and they actually had to play teams. They didn't have to play anybody to drop. Vision, Hello Kitty lovers, stopped the unstoppable Red Pacific, beat Tuna, whoever that was, and Booyah Gang before just getting knocked out by the Nightfares. So the Hood, a Div 3 team, having a strong results for themselves this time around as well. Night Fairs deserve a little bit of recognition because why not? We like Night Fairs. They got Daybreak on that squad. And you know what sucks for Night Fairs? The only team to beat them here after they beat Booyah Gang in the Hood, the only team to beat them is Makashera, who beat them twice, total 6 games to 2 in winners finals and grand finals. Also, to Makashera's credit, they beat Night Fairs 3 times in the same week. They played them in Ludi and beat them pretty convincingly in Ludi as well. So Makashera is just chomping at the bit saying, ooh, we get to play these guys again. Night Fairs, well, I have to really figure out how they're going to have to beat these guys because it's clear with how these things go, they're going to have to get past these guys moving forward. But Makashera has vastly, vastly improved from where we saw them around this time last year. When we didn't know who they were, we put them in the worst div, sorry. Beta bracket. And this is where things really start getting off the rails. Oh my gosh. Look at all these Dairy Queen results across the board here. Yikes. Look, the top 2 matches in the bracket didn't even get played. They're just not here. Now, I'm not going to sit here and speculate why some teams dropped and why it didn't. Except I kind of am going to. I'm assuming... And I'm not going to like call out individual teams or anything like that, but sometimes when you're in this bracket that's right below the alpha bracket that you actually wanted to play for, and then you wake up on Sunday and you're like, do I really want to play for second place when I wanted to try to find a way to play an alpha bracket? Maybe not. And I again, like I do in low ink, I don't condone it, but I don't condemn it as well. I play tournaments as well. I understand it. I haven't dropped from events because I didn't want to just play in it. I've always showed up anyways, but I'm not going to sit here and like harp on anybody for doing that. But this is also where you get to see the teams that actually did play are mostly these weird pickups. I just fixed my computer is one of these teams, and they actually went on to finish second place in this event. And this other team, I forgot how to pronounce this, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. Even though the sound of it, there's something quite atrocious. And this team didn't really do that atrocious, actually. They made a decent losers run, finishing 4th place in this group. But, I mean, their pickups, they're here. They showed up to play. But, I mean, like, Sequoia didn't win anything in these groups. Played against Smoothie, who got a Dairy Queen result. And then they had... They got another DQ drop right here before losing. So, like, Sequoia didn't win anything, but they made it to losers round 3 because of all the drops. That's versus Hyperflow, who had to play 2 matches to even get to Sequoia. So those are some awkward stuff going on right there. The teams that finished at the end of this one, though, as we're looking at beta brackets. Actually, no, I want to give a shout out to Ozone, who had to play a bunch of teams. And made it all the way through. Where did they go? Yeah, Ozone didn't have any drops. They beat Hyperflow, beat the Supercalifragilis team all the way to a game 5, took a game off of I Just Fixed It, beat this Banana Mouth team, and then, yeah, Ozone had a really good result all the way through this tournament. Hyperflow taking a game off of them. Interesting. Haven't seen them in a while, but still, Ozone had a really good run through all these things. Ozone being a Div 1 team, I believe they played their first Ludi match of the entire season today that was streamed on Dapple Productions. I was looking when I was writing notes earlier today. I was like, oh, Ozone hasn't played anything all Ludi season. They're screwed. But they actually played one of their matches, I believe, against Mango Heck Mech earlier today. I don't know the result of that one. We'll look it up later. But the teams that finished here, you got I Just Fixed My Computer, which is the pickup, and we'll give credit to this, the players that are actually on the roster for this. IPS, Cool Dude, Yeti missed Chris number 2, not to be confused with Chris 3 or Chris 1, and Zdunol over there, going up against the Cascade Duck crew, the actual team, who is also Div 1. The Quack Attack themselves having a very good second place, whatever you want to call it, silver medal bracket. I believe only dropping 1 game. Yeah, just dropped to the computer team for beating Ozone and then coming back and dominating them 6-1, forcing a bracket reset and dismissing them in the bracket reset. So Cascade Duck Crew, the Quack Attack themselves, currently 1-1 in their own right in Div 1. Looks like we seeded some of these Div 1 teams correctly. They're getting some strong results there. Last but certainly not least, we'll poke an eye at Alpha Brackets. And wow, we still had drops in Alpha Bracket. Really unfortunate. I don't think it changed much in the grand scheme of things, but it still just shows that even when you make the bracket you want to, some of these teams can't go through and play all the way through. The one thing I want to point out, there are some good upsets in round one. And that's just how round one is. I've said this before. Anybody can be beaten in a best of three. That rings true here. For Seafoam, who got swept by Smoothie earlier in the week, found ways to win game one so that they can control the counter pick in game three against Sayonara, and they beat Sayonara 2-1. Does that mean that Seafoam is a better team than Sayonara? In this match, it does. Would I bet for Seafoam to beat them again going forward? Not particularly, but in a best of three scenario, this happens. Same thing. Oro Jackson, the team that finished all the way in fourth place of the whole doggone tournament, with 3 players from Japan, got beat by Ascension in a game 3 as well. Now, Ascension is no slouch. They've been knocking on the door of upsetting teams in several tournaments, including taking Starburst to a decisive game on the Nintendo stream a few weeks ago. Another one of those teams that can take Starburst to a game 5, but still can't beat them because nobody can. Taking a game off of Alliance Rogue here, and I believe they got knocked out directly afterwards by Graveyard Shift. But still, Ascension proving yet again that they're a team that's knocking on the door, and just like a good month or two could be the difference between them becoming a team capable of winning some of these tournaments. They're taking games off of everybody, except for this one down here in Graveyard Shift. Now, as far as like the teams that got upset, yeah, Oro Jackson losing, but they still bounced back. Sayonara bounced back as well until they just run into a buzzsaw. Oro Jackson beating Alliance Rogue as well. Comet being the buzzsaw, knocking them out as well. But it sucks that these two teams fell so early, because then they just start beating up on people. The match you can't see down here is Cherry Limeade and Sayonara going into Sayonara's favor. But yeah, it sucks for all these teams. Like, this is a great match, but it's played down here in losers round 3, as is this one, because just upsets happen early. But I mean, that's just how these brackets go. As much as I've said Starburst is so much better than everyone else, I still would like to see them play Alliance Rogue, and that didn't happen here. In fact, the 2 EU teams that Starburst hasn't really played a lot of lately were stuck over here. And I think that's just Comet being the issue. Initially, I was like, how is Alliance Rogue and Starburst not on the same side of the bracket? Like, they should be, right? But then again, I realized, oh wait, Comet's here. Comet definitely needs to be the number 3 seed, so that bumps up Alliance Rogue up here to number 4, Oro Jackson at number 5. So that's how Starburst gets separated from those other teams. Comet obviously is the better team, so it makes sense. For the seeding was correct. It's just, man, I really wanted to see Starburst going up against some of these other EU teams. But them beating Comet 3-1 fashion, still impressive in its own right. That's great to see. Now, is there anything else I wanted to talk about before we got all the way through here? No, I think we did all of that. I want to talk about grand finals of this event, because Starburst beat Melon God 3-1, and I commentated that with Zach. And I said on the stream, it doesn't mean anything, because we've seen them do this many times, and then they go into the bracket reset and it's a completely different story. And I was right. I think the question Zach brought up was, what does Starburst do in between now and waiting? The answer to that is coming up with a counter pick that's not one they already used. They showed their card early in this set by counter picking Clan Blitz at Museum, and for some reason they picked it twice. They picked it here in the grand finals, and they picked it in the bracket reset. I can't figure out why they didn't come up with a plan B for counter picks. Yeah, they kept winning on it, but history has shown they kept picking Tower Control Art Academy before in the past against these teams from Japan. They always win them on the first time. The second time they pick it, they always lose. Rainmaker Skate Park was a prime example back in Splatoon 2. Starburst won that first time. The bracket reset, they pick it again. The adjustment being made. The team that was Kings at the time, they used Tint or they used tint the first time and dropped it the second time. They made the adjustment and they always win. Starburst keeps picking the same maps over and over again, and the teams from Japan always makes the adjustment. They don't change things, or they don't just use the same exact comp. The second time Melon God played Clan Blitz Museum, they used Tetras. That didn't work. The third time, they just, screw it, let's just bring another splashback out, and that time it finally worked. Now, to their credit, Starburst didn't lose these last matches. This 3-0 was not the curb stomp we're used to seeing. Starburst looked like they were going to get away with winning a third time on Clan Blitz Museum. Just at the very end, they couldn't do it. It looked like they were going to win a second time at Rainmaker Undertow, just frames away from getting the lead there at the end. But even when they do that, they got to beat Melon God on their own counterpicks twice. But that's the difference. Japan makes adjustments. And why Starburst continues to allow them the opportunity to make those adjustments by doing the same counterpicks again and again, tournament after tournament against the Kings and Melon Gods is beyond me. It seems like there's just no plan B. And I'm not sitting here being critical of Starburst like I know the answer to this, or I've been in the position they've been in. I haven't, but that's just something I've noticed. They just keep picking the same thing. And so be it. Now, all of that criticism I spewed could have just been avoided. In that game 5, it looked like Starburst was about to win the whole tournament. I want to show you guys the play here. This is directly from the Dapple stream. This is game 5. And Rainmaker at Mincemeat Metalworks. Oh my God, why is this even a thing you can pick? But it looks like right here, Ice with the Rainmaker, 2 players down from the side of Melon God, that Starburst is going to win this whole tournament. They're going to find ways to get in the right position, but then there's Clicks right here. The only player that could stop anything is Clicks, and for whatever reason, Clicks doesn't make the play. It's over. Starburst is going to win. They got the splat. Now, they lost the player in front of it, but Ice has the path to get the lead. They just have to get past the podium, and they win. And then look what happens. Another player slips out of nowhere, even though Bagel is shooting at them, shooting shots at this player. They still can't get the splat in time. The Rainmaker gets stopped. If this player dies just a few frames earlier by Bagel, which they ultimately do die, you do got this machine player coming up here, but the machine player probably can't stop this before they at least get a 1-point lead. If that happens, the tournament's over. The conversation is completely different. At that point, we're talking about Starburst has done it. They beat a team from Japan who's playing at 4 a.m. on Monday. The gap has been closed. Like you didn't pay attention to the Splat World Championship on Saturday. Like the conversation is completely different if that one minuscule play doesn't break into Melon God's favor. But it does. And then they counterpick Clan Blitz Museum again, and it doesn't work out the third time. They pick Rainmaker Undertow, and it doesn't work out then, and the tournament's over. That's how close these things are. And it's easy to be critical from this position, but you just see how close and exciting these sets are. Even when it's just a boring-ass comp coming out from both teams at this point, there's still exciting things going on. And that's the heck of a moment. And I don't know if that moment got caught by enough people, but that was the play of the entire tournament. Because if that play doesn't get made, Starburst wins and the whole narrative changed. But it got made, and now we're sitting here talking about something completely different. Starburst still stuck in this mode of being too good for everybody else in the West and still not good enough to beat Japan. Even though when they have a player from Japan come and play for their team. By the way, that Stamper play was awesome. It was awesome. I believe it was Nori who was playing for them. That player was really cool to see. It was a nice change of pace from everything else going on in that set as well. I do want to say this, though. I do want to give a shout out and congratulations to Kyo. And I haven't seen this narrative being said, but I know people are probably thinking it in the back of their minds. Oh, Kyo just sold out and played with Japan to win a tournament. Because we haven't seen Kyo be at the top of a tournament of this caliber in quite a long time. I would imagine it would be like 2021 would be the last time when something like that happened, where Kyo finishes up at first place in an event of this kind of caliber. I do want to point something out, though. Those strong players from Japan are not looking to play with me. They're not looking to play with any of you guys, any of you idiots in chat. The right to play with those strong players is something Kyo has earned. That's why Kyo is playing with these players. You earn the reputation and the ability to play with them. That counts for something. This isn't just these players coming in and help carry me so that I can finally win. No, that's something Kyo has earned, just like this championship that they won here with this event. And again, I don't see anything wrong with more players from Japan coming over and making more connections with players from the West. I think that's nothing but a positive thing for all of us involved. No arguments to be had there. Put out a video clip about it? Really? Oh, NA's number one slosher. Well, yeah, that's true. Not NA's number one slosher. Probably the West in general, number one slosher. Oh, but that's enough talking about Splatoon. I have talked so much about Splatoon the last 3 weeks. I'm not doing anything. Friday, December the 30th, we're going to have a Popcast, the final Popcast of the year. I'm going to answer the question of what is the purpose of all the things that we do here in Splatoon, and we're going to start handing out awards for the Team of the Year, Player of the Year, whatever. Maybe Content Creator of the Year. I don't know. That might be a fair thing to put out. We'll come out with the categories. I'll tweet that out next week. But I'm done. Stop DMing me stuff about Low Ink. Stop DMing me stuff about anything Splatoon related. I'm done. I'm so done. I need time to think about other stuff and just enjoy the weekend. And so I'm done. I'm signing off here, and I'm just gonna chill. How's that sound? But for future stuff, if you'd like to be a part of the podcast in any way, outside of this week, feel free to reach out to me in my socials below. Twitter, Mr._Popgun, Discord, Popgun, #5882, YouTube at Popgun25, Anchor.fm/Popgun. Let's see, is there anybody streaming Splatoon 3 right now that I don't normally... I raid Barry all the time. We've raided Becca before. We haven't done that in a while. Let's do that. Hey, stay safe. Make sure you are vaccinated. Enjoy the holiday season, whatever holiday you celebrate. And if you don't celebrate holidays, well, I don't know, enjoy your Sunday, I guess.